What happens when a healed empath runs into the very narcissist who once drained their soul? Imagine walking into a room and seeing a familiar face, a person who once twisted your emotions, controlled your thoughts, and left you questioning your own worth. But now everything has changed. You've grown, healed, and reclaimed the energy that was once stolen. The chaos that once frightened you now feels distant, almost powerless against your calm, grounded presence. In this encounter, the rules are different. The old games no longer work. The triggers are gone, and what unfolds can surprise both of you. Will the narcissist recognize the change, or will their frustration reveal more about their own shadow than yours? Today we're diving deep into this fascinating dynamic, exploring what truly happens when a healed empath meets a narcissist again through the lens of Carl Jung's insights. Stick around until the end because you won't want to miss the surprising truths about power, growth, and liberation that could change the way you handle toxic encounters forever. And hey, if you've ever faced this situation, drop a comment below, facing, and share your experience. Or subscribe for more eye-opening insights. When a healed empath encounters a narcissist again, the experience is nothing like it was before because the rules of engagement have completely changed. In the past, the narcissist thrived on emotional manipulation, exploiting every insecurity and fear. But now, the empath carries a quiet power that is immediately felt. The first thing that happens is an immediate energy shift. The empath no longer absorbs the chaos, anger, or drama, and their calm, grounded presence creates an invisible shield that the narcissist cannot penetrate. This alone can leave the narcissist confused, frustrated, or even intimidated, because they are no longer able to pull the familiar strings of control. Beyond this, the encounter becomes a mirror of self-awareness, reflecting the empath's growth and resilience. The healed empath can see through the narcissist's manipulations and recognize their patterns without feeling threatened, experiencing compassion without attachment. Old emotional hooks like guilt, shame, or fear no longer have any grip, which subtly reverses the power dynamic. The narcissist, who once dominated, now faces someone they cannot easily manipulate. According to Carl Jung's ideas about the shadow, meeting the narcissist in this state is like facing a living projection of unresolved inner chaos. But the empath navigates it with conscious awareness rather than reaction. They observe, they listen, and they respond from a place of clarity rather than instinctive fear, which disarms most attempts at gaslighting or emotional provocation. The narcissist may react with envy, subtle aggression, or irritation, revealing the depth of their insecurity, but the empath remains unaffected, demonstrating that true strength is rooted in inner balance. This encounter also highlights the empath's ability to practice detached empathy, caring and understanding without absorbing or enabling toxic behaviors. In essence, the meeting becomes a test of growth and boundaries, showing the empath exactly how far they have come emotionally, spiritually, and psychologically. Finally, the encounter provides closure and liberation. The empath may choose to distance themselves further, set clear boundaries, or simply observe without engagement,
knowing that they no longer need external validation or fear the narcissist's influence. This dynamic illustrates a profound truth. Healing does not just protect an empath from manipulation, it transforms them into someone unshakable, sovereign, and free.
When a healed empath meets a narcissist again, one of the most profound experiences is the mirror of self-awareness that naturally emerges. Unlike before, the empath no longer walks into the encounter with fear, doubt, or confusion. Instead, they see the situation as a reflection of their own growth and strength. The narcissist, accustomed to eliciting reactions, may respond in ways that are aggressive, passive-aggressive, or subtly manipulative, but the empath perceives these behaviors without judgment. Each sarcastic comment, veiled criticism, or attempt to provoke is seen clearly for what it truly is, a reflection of the narcissist's unresolved inner turmoil, not a measure of the empath's worth. This clarity allows the empath to remain centered and composed, fully aware that the chaos they once felt drawn into now no longer holds power over them. In observing the narcissist's actions, the empath begins to understand the depth of their own transformation. The patience, the self-control, and the emotional resilience they have cultivated over time. They recognize patterns instantly and feel a sense of empowerment in knowing that they are no longer susceptible to manipulation, guilt, or fear. The encounter becomes almost like looking into a psychological mirror. The narcissist's behavior highlights how far the empath has come, revealing the contrast between past vulnerability and current strength. Even if the narcissist tries to assert dominance, criticize, or provoke, the empath remains emotionally detached, responding with calm awareness rather than reaction, which in itself disarms the narcissist. This mirror effect also reinforces the empath's understanding of boundaries, self-respect, and emotional sovereignty, showing them that true power is rooted in inner awareness rather than external control. Over time, these encounters can feel less like confrontations and more like lessons, as the empath sees clearly who they used to be, who they are now, and how far they've evolved in their capacity to hold their energy, maintain clarity, and engage with the world from a grounded place of authenticity. The mirror of self-awareness is both humbling and empowering. It reminds the empath that growth is visible, tangible, and undeniable, and that the narcissist's behavior is a reflection of their unresolved shadow rather than a threat to the empath's continued journey toward freedom, peace, and self-mastery.
One of the most remarkable transformations a healed empath experiences when meeting a narcissist again is the disappearance of old emotional hooks. In the past, even a subtle comment, a dismissive tone, or a strategically placed criticism might have triggered waves of guilt, shame, or fear, pulling the empath into a cycle of self-doubt and emotional chaos. But after the journey of healing, growth, and self-awareness, these triggers no longer hold any power. The empath has reclaimed their emotional sovereignty, creating a space where no manipulation, gaslighting, or subtle provocation can penetrate. When the narcissist attempts to provoke an emotional reaction, perhaps by twisting words, highlighting perceived failures, or attempting to draw the empath into a conflict, the empath remains calm, collected, and unshaken, responding not with defensiveness or anger, but with quiet presence. This unshakable state is a profound demonstration of inner strength and sovereignty, showing that true power does not come from confrontation or dominance, but from the ability to maintain emotional equilibrium in the face of toxicity. The narcissist may grow frustrated, confused, or even increasingly desperate as they realize that the familiar patterns that once worked are now ineffective. For the empath, this shift is liberating. It confirms that the journey of healing was not just about recovery, but about transformation, retraining the mind, reinforcing boundaries, and reclaiming personal energy. No longer being pulled into emotional turmoil allows the empath to observe interactions with clarity and insight, understanding the narcissist's motives without becoming entangled. Each encounter becomes a silent affirmation of resilience and growth, a living testament to the fact that emotional hooks only have power if one allows them to. By remaining grounded, detached, and emotionally sovereign, the healed empath sets a standard for how they engage with the world, signaling that manipulation and control are no longer welcome or effective. This freedom from emotional hooks is not merely about defense. It's an active demonstration of mastery over one's own inner world, allowing the empath to engage from a place of strength, compassion, and clarity, and leaving the narcissist powerless to influence, intimidate, or destabilize them.
One of the most remarkable transformations a healed empath experiences when meeting a narcissist again is the disappearance of old emotional hooks. In the past, even a subtle comment, a dismissive tone, or a strategically placed criticism might have triggered waves of guilt, shame, or fear, pulling the empath into a cycle of self-doubt and emotional chaos. But after the journey of healing, growth, and self-awareness, these triggers no longer hold any power. The empath has reclaimed their emotional sovereignty, creating a space where no manipulation, gaslighting, or subtle provocation can penetrate. When the narcissist attempts to provoke an emotional reaction, perhaps by twisting words, highlighting perceived failures, or attempting to draw the empath into a conflict, the empath remains calm, collected, and unshaken, responding not with defensiveness or anger, but with quiet presence. This unshakable state is a profound demonstration of inner strength and sovereignty, showing that true power does not come from confrontation or dominance, but from the ability to maintain emotional equilibrium in the face of toxicity. The narcissist may grow frustrated, confused, or even increasingly desperate as they realize that the familiar patterns that once worked are now ineffective. For the empath, this shift is liberating. It confirms that the journey of healing was not just about recovery, but about transformation, retraining the mind, reinforcing boundaries, and reclaiming personal energy. No longer being pulled into emotional turmoil allows the empath to observe interactions with clarity and insight, understanding the narcissist's motives without becoming entangled. Each encounter becomes a silent affirmation of resilience and growth,
a living testament to the fact that emotional hooks only have power if one allows them to. By remaining grounded, detached, and emotionally sovereign, the healed empath sets a standard for how they engage with the world, signaling that manipulation and control are no longer welcome or effective.
When a healed empath encounters a narcissist again, one of the most striking dynamics that emerges is a subtle but undeniable power reversal. In past interactions, the narcissist may have dominated conversations, dictated emotional tone, and manipulated situations to maintain control, leaving the empath feeling small, reactive, and constantly off balance. Now, after a period of healing and self-discovery, that dynamic shifts in a quiet but powerful way. The empath no longer needs to assert authority overtly because their presence alone radiates calm, confidence, and centeredness, qualities the narcissist cannot undermine. This grounded self-awareness becomes a form of authority in itself, creating a situation where the narcissist's attempts at manipulation feel ineffectual, even transparent. This subtle power reversal is not about confrontation or winning arguments. It is about the empath holding space in a way that naturally disarms the narcissist. Every attempt at control or provocation is met with steady composure, reflective observation, and an emotional detachment that leaves the narcissist visibly unsettled. They may react with confusion, irritation, or even covert attempts to regain dominance. But the empath remains unshaken, demonstrating that true power is rooted in self-mastery rather than external influence. This shift transforms the interaction into a quiet battlefield, where the narcissist's familiar tactics no longer hold sway, and the empath's calm authority silently dictates the terms. Over time, this subtle reversal reinforces the empath's sense of sovereignty and confidence, making it clear that emotional energy and presence are far more potent than manipulation or aggression. The encounter also serves as a profound reminder of growth. The empath recognizes how far they have come, no longer tethered to fear, guilt, or obligation, and able to interact from a position of inner clarity. In this space, every glance, every word, and every gesture carries weight, not because of dominance or coercion, but because of authenticity, presence, and unwavering self-awareness. This subtle power reversal is a testament to the transformative nature of healing, showing that when an empath stands fully in their truth, the dynamics of control shift naturally, and the narcissist, who once held all the cards, now faces someone who cannot be moved, manipulated, or diminished, quietly but unmistakably reclaiming authority over their own energy and interactions. One of the most profound perspectives on what happens when a healed empath meets a narcissist again comes from Carl Jung's concept of the shadow. Jung taught that each of us carries a shadow, the hidden, often unconscious parts of ourselves that we deny, fear, or repress, and that true growth comes from facing and integrating these aspects rather than running from them. In the context of the empath-narcissist dynamic, the narcissist often functions as a living, externalized shadow, reflecting unresolved fears, insecurities, and unacknowledged desires. When an empath encounters this reflection after healing, the interaction is no longer a battleground of manipulation or pain, but an opportunity to navigate the shadow with conscious awareness. The healed empath recognizes that the narcissist's behaviors, whether aggressive,
charming, or subtly controlling are manifestations of their own unresolved inner chaos, rather than a reflection of the empath's worth or strength. By observing without judgment and responding from a grounded place of awareness, the empath is effectively engaging with the shadow in real time, integrating lessons about personal boundaries, emotional sovereignty, and self-respect. This conscious navigation allows the empath to rise above the narcissist's attempts at control, not through force or confrontation, but through clarity and presence. The encounter becomes a mirror, revealing both the empath's growth and the narcissist's inner disarray, highlighting the contrast between mastery and chaos. It is a powerful reminder that the shadow's influence only persists when met with ignorance or unconscious reaction, and that by maintaining awareness, the empath transforms what was once a source of pain into a tool for deeper understanding and empowerment. In this way, the healed empath demonstrates a level of psychological maturity and spiritual insight that the narcissist cannot manipulate, showing that the greatest victory is not external dominance, but the integration of one's own light and shadow. Every interaction becomes a lesson in presence, self-control, and conscious choice, reinforcing the empath's journey toward wholeness. The narcissist may continue to project, provoke, or attempt to destabilize, but the empath meets this projection not with fear or retaliation, but with awareness, embodying Jung's principle that growth comes from facing the shadow, understanding it, and ultimately rising above it with composure, clarity, and inner freedom.
When a healed empath meets a narcissist again, one of the most powerful tools they bring to the interaction is the ability to practice silent observation rather than immediate reaction. In past encounters, the empath might have been drawn into manipulation games, responding to provocations with anxiety, anger, or guilt, and thereby giving the narcissist exactly the control they sought. Now, however, healing allows the empath to step back mentally and emotionally, observing the narcissist's behavior with clarity, curiosity, and discernment, rather than reacting impulsively. This observation is not passive. It is an active, conscious choice to witness the situation without surrendering energy or control. By seeing the narcissist's motives, patterns, and attempts at manipulation clearly, the empath effectively diffuses potential conflict before it even begins, because nothing provokes a response when the mind and emotions remain steady. Each attempt at provocation, whether through subtle criticism, passive aggression, or charm, is recognized for what it truly is, a projection of the narcissist's unresolved inner struggles. The empath remains fully aware that these actions are reflections of the narcissist's shadow and not a measure of their own value or behavior. This ability to observe without reacting is a hallmark of emotional sovereignty, demonstrating that strength comes not from fighting or defending, but from maintaining composure and presence. In practical terms, the empath may choose to remain silent, respond calmly, or redirect the conversation without losing clarity, turning potential drama into a space of neutral energy. The narcissist, accustomed to seeing reactive behavior, often becomes frustrated or confused when their attempts fail, revealing the depth of their need for control and the ineffectiveness of old tactics. For the empath,
This encounter becomes a lesson in patience, awareness, and self-mastery, showing how much growth has occurred since the days of being emotionally entangled. Every interaction reinforces the understanding that reacting is optional, observation is powerful, and energy is a resource to be protected rather than given away. By practicing silent observation, the empath not only safeguards their emotional state, but also sets a subtle but unmistakable boundary, signaling that manipulation and provocation no longer have influence. Over time, these encounters serve as a living testament to resilience, teaching the empath how to engage with difficult personalities without compromising their own peace, ultimately transforming interactions that once caused suffering into opportunities for insight, empowerment, and conscious choice. The ability to watch without reacting becomes a defining feature of the healed empath's journey, proving that true strength lies in presence, awareness, and the quiet mastery of self, rather than in confrontation or control.
One of the most fascinating and sometimes intense dynamics that occurs when a healed empath encounters a narcissist again is the way the narcissist's ego is triggered. In the past, the narcissist often maintained control by exploiting the empath's vulnerabilities, guilt, fear, self-doubt, or overgiving, and they thrived on the emotional energy the empath unconsciously provided. But when the empath has healed, grown, and reclaimed their energy, the dynamic shifts dramatically, and the narcissist may experience a profound sense of confusion, frustration, or even envy. The sight of someone they once controlled, standing confidently, calm, and self-assured, can provoke a reaction that exposes the narcissist's unresolved inner chaos in ways that are sometimes subtle, sometimes overt, but always revealing. The narcissist may attempt to reassert dominance through gaslighting, manipulation, or passive-aggressive tactics, hoping to destabilize the empath or elicit the old reactions that once reinforced their sense of power. They may make veiled criticisms, employ charm as a weapon, or provoke situations designed to create insecurity. But the healed empath is no longer susceptible to these tactics. Instead, the empath recognizes these behaviors for what they are: desperate attempts by someone who cannot tolerate witnessing another person's growth because it mirrors the parts of themselves they have refused to face. In this encounter, the narcissist's envy is often palpable, sometimes manifesting as subtle digs meant to undermine the empath's confidence or achievements. They may project their own insecurities onto the empath, suggesting that the empath's success, calmness, or self-possession is somehow unearned, manipulative, or undeserved. This projection is a classic hallmark of narcissistic behavior, yet for the healed empath, it serves as a mirror, reflecting not personal failure, but the narcissist's inner turbulence and lack of self-integration. The empath observes these reactions without judgment, maintaining composure and emotional sovereignty, which paradoxically intensifies the narcissist's frustration because their usual methods of control no longer work. At the same time, the empath may notice subtle attempts to regain attention or validation, such as exaggerated stories, competitive remarks, or even emotional displays intended to provoke pity or concern. All of these actions are rooted in the narcissist's need to reinforce their fragile self-image, and they reveal just how dependent the narcissist's sense of self is on external validation.
In witnessing this, the healed empath gains profound insight into human behavior, recognizing patterns of manipulation and understanding the psychological mechanisms that once entrapped them. The narcissist's reactions are no longer experienced as personal attacks. They are seen as predictable outcomes of someone who has not yet confronted their own shadow, someone whose identity is constructed around control and projection rather than self-awareness and inner peace. This clarity allows the empath to navigate the interaction with intention rather than instinct, choosing when and how to engage, or whether to disengage entirely while maintaining inner calm. The emotional neutrality of the empath becomes a mirror that the narcissist cannot manipulate, and every attempt at provocation that fails serves to reinforce the empath's confidence and sense of self-worth. In essence, the encounter triggers not the empath's vulnerabilities, but the narcissist's ego defenses, revealing the depth of their unresolved inner chaos while simultaneously demonstrating the empath's emotional resilience and growth. It is a stark reminder that true empowerment comes not from confrontation or proving a point, but from maintaining awareness, holding boundaries, and protecting one's own energy. The healed empath recognizes that the narcissist's need to provoke envy, insecurity, or doubt is a reflection of internal dissonance, and the empath's response or lack of reactive response highlights the contrast between unresolved chaos and conscious mastery. Over time, these encounters offer profound lessons. They illuminate the narcissist's inability to integrate their shadow, reinforce the empath's emotional sovereignty, and demonstrate the transformative power of healing. The narcissist may attempt to destabilize, confuse, or manipulate, but each action merely exposes their dependence on control and the fragility of their ego, while the empath, rooted in clarity and self-possession, remains untouched, sovereign, and fully aware of the inner power that cannot be taken, manipulated, or undermined by anyone else.
When a healed empath meets a narcissist again, one of the most profound shifts that becomes immediately apparent is the ability to practice empathic detachment in action. In past encounters, the empath might have been entirely absorbed in the narcissist's emotional world, feeling responsible for their moods, trying to fix their problems, and even sacrificing their own well-being to maintain peace or approval. This overconnection often left the empath vulnerable to manipulation, drained of energy, and caught in a cycle of guilt, confusion, or self-blame. However, after a period of intentional healing, self-reflection, and personal growth, the empath develops the skill to care deeply without overextending themselves, to offer empathy without absorbing toxicity, and to extend love without becoming dependent on validation. Empathic detachment does not mean the empath stops caring. Rather, it is a conscious and deliberate way of engaging with others from a place of strength and clarity. In practical terms, when the narcissist attempts to provoke, manipulate, or guilt the empath, the healed individual is able to witness these actions, understand the underlying motives, and respond without losing emotional balance. This approach allows the empath to set firm boundaries, maintain inner peace, and communicate with clarity, while avoiding reactive behaviors that would historically have drawn them into unnecessary conflict.
The practice of compassionate detachment transforms interactions with the narcissist from exhausting and chaotic encounters into opportunities for observation, reflection, and subtle influence. The empath's care is genuine, but it is no longer tethered to the narcissist's approval, mood, or control, which removes the leverage the narcissist previously held over their emotions. Through this detachment, the empath demonstrates a form of emotional sovereignty that is both protective and empowering, signaling clearly that emotional manipulation, coercion, or control will not succeed. The narcissist, accustomed to feeding off the empath's absorbed energy and emotional reactivity, may initially feel frustrated, confused, or even challenged because the old patterns that reinforced their dominance are no longer effective. This reaction reveals the narcissist's dependence on others for their sense of self-worth, while simultaneously highlighting the empath's growth, groundedness, and mastery over their own inner world. Empathic detachment also reinforces clarity in the empath's own intentions. They can offer support, maintain compassion, or engage in necessary dialogue without being swayed by emotional manipulation. The balance of caring without control, empathy without absorption, and love without dependency ensures that the empath operates from a space of conscious choice rather than habitual reaction. Over time, this approach fosters a profound sense of inner freedom and resilience, because the empath learns to protect their energy, maintain emotional stability, and engage in relationships without losing themselves. Every interaction with the narcissist becomes a demonstration of this refined skill, showing that healing is not just about emotional recovery, but about cultivating a sustainable way of being in the world. By practicing empathic detachment, the empath embodies a powerful paradox: deeply connected, yet fully sovereign; compassionate, yet invulnerable to manipulation; loving, yet independent. This approach transforms encounters that were once draining or harmful into moments of insight and empowerment, as the empath witnesses the narcissist's behavior without internalizing it, and maintains clarity about their own boundaries, priorities, and self-worth. In essence, empathic detachment in action allows the healed empath to operate from a place of conscious strength, turning what once might have been an emotionally reactive and exhausting engagement into a demonstration of mastery, presence, and profound personal freedom, proving that true empathy is not measured by how much one absorbs, but by how deeply one can care without losing themselves in the process.
One of the most revealing aspects of a healed empath encountering a narcissist again is that the meeting often functions as a true test of growth, a mirror reflecting just how far the empath has come emotionally, spiritually, and psychologically. In past interactions, the empath may have been overwhelmed by self-doubt, guilt, or emotional turbulence, responding reactively to manipulation, criticism, or subtle attempts to provoke. Every encounter was a lesson in vulnerability, often painful, but ultimately formative. However, after a journey of healing, self-reflection, and intentional personal development, the dynamics of these encounters shift profoundly. The narcissist, intentionally or not, becomes a measuring stick for the empath's transformation. Their presence, words, and attempts at control no longer trigger the same responses, and this in itself is a clear confirmation of progress. The empath begins to notice patterns that once ensnared them: gaslighting, emotional manipulation, subtle provocations, but now views them through the lens of awareness and experience. Each tactic that previously caused distress is now seen as predictable and inconsequential to their inner state, providing a tangible sense of accomplishment and growth. This encounter acts as a crucible, revealing the strength, resilience, and stability the empath has cultivated over time. Spiritually, the empath may notice an increased ability to maintain presence, clarity, and compassion, recognizing that their energy is sovereign and cannot be stolen or diminished. Psychologically, the empath sees the evolution of their responses, where fear, anxiety, or insecurity once dictated behavior. There is now conscious choice, emotional balance, and strategic detachment. Emotionally, the empath experiences freedom from the compulsive need for validation, approval, or connection from the narcissist, understanding that true self-worth arises internally and is independent of external acknowledgement. The encounter becomes a living testament to the lessons learned, showing that the empath's growth is not theoretical or abstract, it is measurable in real-world interactions. Moreover, it highlights the depth of resilience that comes from integrating past pain, learning healthy boundaries, and reclaiming energy previously expended on emotional reactivity. The narcissist, often oblivious to the empath's inner transformation, may attempt the same manipulations, critiques, or provocations that were once effective, only to meet a composed, centered, and aware individual who no longer reacts out of fear or insecurity. This stark contrast serves as undeniable proof of the empath's progress and personal evolution. Every response, or deliberate lack of reaction, reinforces the empath's understanding of their own strength, teaching them that growth is not just about surviving encounters with toxicity, but about thriving despite them. The encounter also encourages reflection, prompting the empath to appreciate the journey, the effort invested in healing, and the development of skills such as empathic detachment, emotional sovereignty, and conscious presence. It is both validating and empowering, offering confirmation that the empath is no longer bound by past patterns, and that they have successfully cultivated the tools to navigate complex interpersonal dynamics with wisdom and confidence. Over time, these experiences provide a framework for understanding the nature of personal transformation. Growth is not just internal. It manifests in the way one interacts with others, especially those who once held power over one's emotions. By witnessing their own ability to remain grounded, detached, and self-aware in the presence of a narcissist, the empath internalizes a sense of mastery over themselves and their environment. This realization affirms the progress made emotionally, spiritually, and psychologically, demonstrating that healing is not a static state, but an evolving practice that equips the empath to face challenges with grace, discernment, and unwavering self-respect. In essence, the encounter becomes a confirmation, a tangible reflection of the empath's journey from vulnerability to sovereignty, from reaction to conscious response, and from dependency to empowered independence, illustrating that true growth is visible, experiential, and undeniably transformative.
When a healed empath meets a narcissist again, one of the most profound experiences that can unfold is the potential for closure or liberation, A moment where the past is confronted not with fear or reactivity, but with awareness, clarity, and sovereign presence. This encounter, depending on how it is approached and experienced, has the power to either peacefully close old chapters or reinforce boundaries in a way that empowers the empath to fully reclaim their energy and sovereignty. For years, the empath may have carried unresolved emotions, lingering doubts, or the weight of manipulation and control, and each meeting with the narcissist may have reopened these wounds, creating cycles of emotional drain and confusion. However, when the empath has healed and integrated lessons from past experiences, this dynamic transforms completely. The encounter becomes a conscious opportunity to acknowledge the past while refusing to let it dictate the present. Through emotional clarity, the empath recognizes the narcissist's behaviors, intentions, and patterns without absorbing them, seeing the truth of their interactions with full awareness. This awareness allows the empath to close old chapters not through confrontation, retaliation, or argument, but by internal acknowledgement, understanding what was, accepting that it cannot be changed, and choosing to move forward unbound by the past. Closure, in this sense, is deeply liberating because it allows the empath to reclaim emotional energy that was once unconsciously surrendered to manipulation, guilt, or self-doubt. At the same time, the encounter often reinforces the importance of boundaries. The empath, now fully aware of their own worth and emotional sovereignty, can articulate limits, maintain distance if necessary, and ensure that no behavior or interaction compromises their inner peace. This reinforcement of boundaries is not an act of punishment toward the narcissist. Rather, it is an act of self-preservation, demonstrating that the empath has learned to protect their energy and engage with others on their own terms. In many ways, this meeting becomes both symbolic and practical, a living affirmation of growth, resilience, and empowerment. The narcissist, accustomed to eliciting control and reactivity, often finds themselves unable to manipulate, provoke, or unsettle the healed empath, which can provoke confusion, frustration, or even subtle attempts at regaining influence, all of which only serve to reinforce the empath's clarity and sovereignty. For the empath, this is a moment of full integration. Emotional lessons learned, boundaries established, and energy reclaimed, all converging to create a profound sense of liberation. Over time, repeated encounters with the narcissist, if they occur, serve less as triggers and more as confirmation of progress and inner freedom. Each interaction provides an opportunity to practice detachment, maintain awareness, and demonstrate sovereign presence in a real-world context, reinforcing the internal work that has already been done. Moreover, this process highlights the empath's ability to choose the quality and nature of their interactions consciously. They are no longer bound to automatic reactions, old emotional hooks, or dependency on the narcissist's approval. Instead, they engage or disengage intentionally, guided by self-respect and clear understanding of what is healthy and empowering. This conscious choice is the essence of liberation. The empath is free to participate in life from a position of energy sovereignty, emotional clarity, and personal authority, fully empowered to reclaim their power without aggression, resentment, or fear. In essence, the encounter functions as a bridge between the past and present, allowing the empath to walk away with a sense of resolution, confidence, and inner peace. It symbolizes the triumph of growth over manipulation, awareness over chaos, and sovereignty over submission.